Hello everyone! There are probably hundreds of videos on YouTube comparing these two aircraft. Everyone focuses on technical specifications and classic details, but the truth is, it is not quite like that. Let's compare the differences between these two planes not on paper, but on the real battlefield. Let's get started. The modern air war has one single rule. Whoever sees first, kills first. If the enemy cannot see you, you have won the war before it even begins. This is where the greatest promise of 5th generation fighter jets comes into play: stealth technology. However, not every piece of shining metal is a true ghost. The massive gap between the F-35 and the Su-57 Felon starts at the very first second you look at the outer hull of the aircraft. American engineering designed the F-35 not just as a war machine, but as a seamless work of art. When you look closely at the hull of the F-35, you see that every single part is joined with another in perfect harmony, at a micron level. You cannot find a single protrusion, a single exposed screw, or a sloppy joint on the fuselage. Why? Because radar waves do not forgive. Even a millimeter of roughness can cause a massive light explosion on a radar screen thousands of miles away. Now let us turn our cameras to the pride of the Russians, the Su-57. It is true that when you look from a distance, it has a very imposing and aggressive design. However, when you get a little closer, we face the bitter reality of the Russian defense industry. There are rivets and screws clearly visible on the hull of the Su-57. Especially at the wing junctions and around the engine. Aviation experts were unable to hide their surprise when they first saw these photos, because leaving an exposed screw on a stealth aircraft is like holding a flashlight while trying to hide in the dark. When radar waves hit that rough body structure of the Su-57, instead of sliding away on a smooth surface, they get caught in these screws and gaps and reflect back. The result is a complete disaster. According to analyses, while the F-35 takes up as much space on radar as a marble, the Su-57 leaves a trail as prominent as a flying pickup truck in a clear sky. Although the Russians call this aircraft 5th generation and stealth, the technical data tells us that the Su-57 is actually just a revamped 4th generation aircraft. Even worse are the engine outlets of the Su-57. The invisibility of an aircraft is not limited to radars alone. To escape heat-seeking missiles, the aircraft must also hide the heat it emits. The engine of the F-35 is hidden deep within the fuselage, and is equipped with special systems that dissipate heat. On the other hand, the engines of the Su-57 are completely exposed when viewed from behind. This situation makes the aircraft an open target not only for radars, but even for the simplest heat-seeking missiles. In short, in the design war, the F-35 is like an invisible assassin gliding through the sky, while the Su-57 stands like an old knight wearing a ghost costume, but making noise and emitting light from everywhere. The only thing Russia uses to cover up these design flaws is high maneuverability. But remember, in modern warfare, doing acrobatics against an enemy you cannot see has no importance. Before you even understand where your opponent is, a missile will have already locked onto your cockpit. In the world of modern aviation, the cockpit is no longer just a place to fly a plane. It is a command center. If the first rule of air combat is to stay invisible, the second rule is to see everything. This is where the F-35 separates itself from every other fighter jet ever built, including the Su-57. The F-35 is often called a flying computer, and for good reason. It does not just carry sensors, it fuses them into a single, godlike view of the entire battlefield. The heart of the F-35 is the distributed aperture system. There are 6 infrared cameras mounted around the fuselage that allow the pilot to look directly through the floor and walls of the aircraft. When an F-35 pilot looks down, they do not see the cockpit floor. They see the ground and the sky below them in high definition. This is paired with the most advanced helmet in history. The helmet costs nearly $400,000 and serves as the pilot's primary display. Every target, every missile threat, and every friendly unit is projected onto the visor. The F-35 pilot is not just flying a jet. They are playing a high-stakes game where they have all the cheat codes. Now, let us look at the Su-57. While the Russians claim to have advanced radars, they are fundamentally limited by old-school philosophy. The Su-57 relies on a massive N036 Bielka radar system. It is powerful, yes, but power is not everything in the digital age. In a battle of electronic warfare, being loud is a death sentence. The Su-57's radar is like a giant flashlight in a dark room. It helps you see, but it also tells everyone exactly where you are. The biggest failure of the Su-57 is its lack of sensor fusion. In the Russian jet, the pilot has to look at multiple screens, process different data points, and try to build a mental map of the fight. It is a heavy cognitive load that slows down reaction time. Meanwhile, the F-35's artificial intelligence does all that work instantly. It filters out the noise and tells the pilot exactly which target is the highest priority. Furthermore, the F-35 is built for network-centric warfare. It can talk to satellites, ground troops, ships, and other aircraft silently. An F-35 can find a Su-57, send the coordinates to a distant destroyer, and have a missile launched without ever turning on its own radar. This is the definition of a blindfolded boxer. The Su-57 might be ready for a fight, throwing powerful punches at shadows, but it cannot hit what it cannot perceive. It is searching for a ghost that has already placed a target on its back. While the Russian pilot is busy managing dials and switches, the American pilot is managing the entire theater of war. In a digital dogfight, the Su-57 is bringing a knife to a laser fight. The technology gap is not just wide, it is generational. By the time the Su-57 pilot realizes the F-35 is even in the area, the engagement is already over. In the world of aviation fans and airshow crowds, there is nothing more exciting than watching a fighter jet perform gravity-defying stunts. This is the one area where the Su-57 Felon takes the spotlight. If we were judging this competition based on a circus performance, the Russian jet would win gold every single time. Thanks to its 3D thrust vectoring engines, the Su-57 can perform maneuvers that seem to break the laws of physics. It can flip, spin, and dance in the sky in ways the F-35 simply cannot. The Russians often use these acrobatic displays to argue that the Su-57 is the superior fighter. They boast about its top speed of Mach 2 and its ability to turn on a dime. In their view, if a Su-57 ever gets into a dogfight with an F-35, the agile Russian jet would tear the American plane to pieces. They call this super maneuverability, and it is indeed impressive to watch. But here's the problem. Russian engineers are still building a plane for a type of war that ended 40 years ago. The F-35 Lightning II was not designed to be a gymnast. It was designed to be a sniper. While the Su-57 is busy doing backflips, the F-35 is cruising at Mach 1.6, completely invisible to the Russian pilot. In modern aerial combat, the era of the dogfight is dead. Today, missiles have their own thrust vectoring and can turn much sharper than any human pilot could ever survive. A missile does not care how many flips your plane can do. It is faster, smaller, and deadlier. Think of it this way. The Su-57 is like a master swordsman who has spent his entire life learning the perfect strike. He is fast, agile, and graceful. The F-35 is a professional marksman with a high-powered rifle and a thermal scope. The swordsman can dance all he wants, but he will never get close enough to use his blade. The F-35 pilot sees the Su-57 from over 100 miles away. With a single press of a button, a long-range missile is launched. The Russian pilot will never even see the face of the man who shot him down. In the 21st century, speed and maneuverability are the consolation prizes for those who have failed at stealth and sensors. If you have to resort to a dogfight, it means you have already failed at every other stage of the mission. The F-35 does not need to outturn the Su-57 because it will never allow the Su-57 to get within visual range. The Russian jet is a beautiful relic of the past, while the F-35 is the cold, calculated reality of the future. While the Russian crowds cheer at air shows, American pilots are training to win wars without ever being seen. The ultimate test of a weapon is not how it performs in a simulation or an air show. The ultimate test is availability. A weapon that does not exist in significant numbers is not a weapon, it is a museum piece. This is the final and most devastating blow to the Russian Su-57. When we compare the production lines of the United States and Russia, the gap is so vast that it becomes almost comical. The F-35 Lightning is a global phenomenon, while the Su-57 is a struggling project that can barely keep its head above water. As of 26, there are over 1,000 F-35s flying across the globe. They are operated by the United States, the United Kingdom, Israel, Japan, and dozens of other allies. The F-35 is not just a plane, it is a massive industrial ecosystem. If an F-35 needs a spare part in Europe, the Pacific, or the Middle East, that part is already there. The software is constantly updated based on thousands of hours of real combat experience. This is a machine that is ready for war every single day, in every corner of the world. Now, let us look at the reality of the Su-57. After nearly 2 decades of development, Russia has managed to produce only a handful of serial production aircraft. Most estimates suggest there are fewer than 30 operational units in existence. In a real conflict, a fleet of 30 aircraft is practically invisible. You cannot maintain a front line, you cannot sustain losses, and you cannot provide continuous air cover with such a pathetic number of jets. While the United States builds several F-35s every single week, Russia struggles to deliver a few Su-57s every year. Logistics win wars, not flashy maneuvers. The Su-57 is plagued by engine delays, manufacturing defects, and a lack of funding. Even worse, the sanctions on high-end electronics have made it nearly impossible for Russia to produce the advanced chips needed for a true 5th-generation jet. Russia is trying to build a futuristic fighter with yesterday's resources. The Su-57 is essentially a paper tiger. It looks terrifying on a poster, but in a real-world scenario, it would be overwhelmed by the sheer numbers and superior support network of the F-35. The choice is clear. You can have a handful of expensive, unreliable jets that spend most of their time in a hangar for repairs, or you can have 1,000 invisible assassins that are connected to the most powerful military network in human history. The F-35 is a reality that dominates the skies today. The Su-57 is a desperate attempt to stay relevant in a world that has already moved on. In the end, the winner of this battle is not the plane that can do a backflip. It is the plane that shows up to the fight in overwhelming numbers. The Su-57 might be a legend in the mind of Russian propagandists, but the F-35 is the undisputed king of the sky.